Hey, this is BizDevDon with Forget How Coaching. I hope this video finds you and yours well and healthy during this crazy time. And if not, let's talk about ways to get better and do better. This is part one of our sales, prospecting, and all things business development series, where we'll be going over everything you need to know, all the best habits and best practices to help you succeed and create abundance for yourself and your family. Doing the right things consistently will also give you a sense of peace and confidence, knowing that you're an absolute pro who can accomplish your goals. There really is money in building these skills of prospecting. But success and abundance are created, 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour at a time through the choices you make and the actions you take. So we're going to kick this series off by talking about the one single thing that you're in control of when you start your prospecting and selling day. Look, there are a lot of things you can't control, right? You can't control whether the prospect answers the phone or returns a voicemail message. You can't control what kind of a day that person has had when they pick up the phone. You can't control whether a difficult gatekeeper is on the other end. You can't even control whether the prospect will be interested in talking to you or engaging further with your company. Now, those are all things that you have influence over through your knowledge and experience, your tone, pitch, and inflection, the way you respond to questions or objections, and so on. I mean, influencing the outcome of a call is much of what we'll be talking about in future episodes. After all, if you're in sales or business development or prospecting, your job is to influence the other person to make a decision now. But let's not mistake influence for control. No, there is one and only one thing that you are in control of, and that is the sheer number of dials or attempts you make each day. Oh, wait, you know what? I lied, because there is something else you're in control of, and that is how you play the internal mental game of sales and prospecting. Now, that game includes such things as your confidence, your level of preparation, your overall outlook and expectation for success, your ability to stay focused and engaged. If your job is to grind it out every day, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Prospecting, especially if you're cold calling, can seem tedious, frustrating, even boring. There's nothing worse, though, than dialing away blindly without focus, and suddenly a prospect answers and your brain isn't in gear and you stub your toe. I've done that too many times myself. So let's talk about numbers to begin with, the numbers game. If you've been in sales for more than 15 minutes, you've heard the phrase that it's all a numbers game, right? And well, as an absolute, that isn't true. It isn't all a numbers game. It is largely a numbers game. So to be successful, you need to know two things. You need to know what your numbers are, and then you need to drive those numbers every day. If you don't, you may drop into what I call the zero factor. The zero factor. What's that, you say? I'm glad you asked. Let's say, for example, you're calling IT professionals about a particular software solution your company offers, and you're looking to either fill up your calendar or someone else's with qualified appointments. The question then is, how many dials or attempts do you need to make? And the answer is, I don't know. It's going to be a little bit different for each person because of a host of other factors. But the point is that you need to know that number for you and your product or service. Just to make it simple, let's say that on average, you need to make contact with 3 decision makers to get 1 appointment, and you need to make 100 dials to get to 3 decision makers. Stands to reason then that to get 1 appointment in a day, you need to make 100 dials, right? Well, it seems like it should be that way, but it actually isn't in practice. If those are your numbers, you probably need to plan on making 125 or 150 dials per day. Why? Because if your raw number is 100 dials to get to 1 appointment, and you get to the end of that day and have no appointments, you know what I'm talking about. We've all had days like this. Then you're done. And then the next day you make 100 dials and probably get 1, maybe you get 2, but more likely you get one. And then in the 2 days that you should have 2 appointments, you've actually only got one. But if you plan to make 150 dials each day, by the end of that second day, you've made 300 dials. And that's when the sample size starts to match up. Chances are decent that you'll have actually made 3 appointments by the end of that second day. Now, I'll be honest, I only have some speculative ideas as to why this zero factor exists or why it's true. But I can tell you that in 30 years of calling prospects and working with others doing the same thing, the zero factor is real. Is it because when you dial at a higher rate, you have more momentum and that results in more success? Perhaps. Is it true that because you have more confidence because you're nailing your numbers? Possibly. I don't know, but maybe that goes into the mental game. The point here is know your numbers. Take the total dials you've made over, say, the last 30 days. Divide it by the total number of appointments you've set during that time. That's your zero factor, not your success factor. In other words, that number of dials should be exceeded by 10% or 20% or even 50% each and every day. Trust me, if you do that, even if you're struggling with the mental game, which we'll talk about in part 2, you will have much more success. And as a side benefit, having more success will help you improve your mental game, which is not surprising, right? So again, stay tuned for part 2 of Controlling What You Can Control, where we'll talk about overcoming call reluctance, or what I like to call the freeze factor, as well as how to stay, alert and ready throughout your prospecting day. This is what I call the focus factor. That's part 2. Stay tuned. In the meantime, thanks for watching this video. If it brought value to your life, your career, your team, hey, leave me a comment and, hit that like and subscribe. You know the drill. But until next time, this is BizDevDon saying goodbye. Make it a great day.